Can talk? Yeah, I think you can.
Okay, I am recording right now. Okay.
Okay. So thank you everybody for coming to this session in Oslo in this conference of ecological economics and degrowth international conference. So today we are going to be talking a special session about making degrowth a reality, implement locally and connect globally. I will do a bit of introduction of what this session will be, the different parts. So my name is Juan José de Blas, and I work in the energy industry, but I'm very active in the International Degrowth Network. It's called IDN, and we try to connect because degrowth is, by definition, is quite local. And then we try to connect the different experiences to make the movement bigger and maybe mainstream, would be our wish. So, well, we are a bit behind schedule, but because we don't have so many people, so we can have more relaxed. The last part that it was like 45 minutes, it was more to exchange experiences. So also of the people that are in the room and online. So you will have also a space to talk because we want to hear your experiences and your learnings. So the first part of the presentation, I'm doing the introduction. Then it's gonna come Jose Gil from Spain, and he will share his experiences in a city called Albacete, that is in the southeast of Spain. And then we also have Daniel from Colombia. He will share his experience from his community called Shambhala. And then the last part of the session, it will be this working session. I mean, working groups, we don't need to do, we can just be one big group and we can share experiences if you want with us. So does it sound good? Excellent. So yeah, unfortunately everything moves a bit, no? You cannot really read very well, but I will be telling you the story. So degrowth, as I mentioned before, this is a very local movement. And this is where we believe you can have your biggest impact as a person, because you will influence your group of friends and your group of families. So the city where you live is where you spend the most of time. So it makes sense. If we want to have a different world, it makes sense that we start at local level where we can influence. But if many people at local level start doing different lifestyles and different initiatives, then if we put all them together, it will be a significant impact. But we should not forget, and this is just my intro, that we are doing this because globally there is a crisis, and well, there is a polycrisis. So we have climate change, we have also loss of biodiversity, so all the planetary boundaries that we are already transpassing. So this is, don't forget, even if you are working locally, there is a bigger problem that we are all trying to solve. So that's always good to keep it in mind, that we are all connected with the same, and fantastic even if you work locally, but you can get inspired by examples in other parts of the world. So this is what we are trying to do today, and in general also with this International Degrowth Network. So I will give it the time now to Jose. So hello. So we have someone. Wait, we have someone in the room. Hi. You are coming for the degrowth in practice? Locally? Yes. Oh, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Jen.
Jen?
Hi.
Where do you come from?
I come from Switzerland.
Oh, nice.
And France.
Yeah. So welcome. We started a bit late because we wanted to record it. Actually, it's recorded, but not here. It's online. But we are just starting, so you are not missing much.
Okay, cool.
So we have you two here, and we have like two presenting, another three. So we will have a more cozy and relaxed session. So, okay. So now, Jose, you can.
Okay, could you hear me? It's okay?
Yeah.
So first of all, thank you for being here. Thanks to Juanjo for organizing this conference. It's really a pleasure to can connect from Spain on this conference. I am 47 years old and father of many children, very happily married. I live at Spain, at Albacete. And since long time ago, I have been aware of the world where I live, and this is why I have been working, or I would say collaborating as activist in several NGOs. Right now, I am doing a lot of in the ecologies topics because of the climate crisis in where we are. That I got aware of that around 10 years. Regarding training, I am an industrial engineer, and recently I completed a master's degree in sustainable growth and development in the university here in my town in Castilla-La Mancha in economics, and this is why I understood clearly the root cause of the problem where we are. This is why I engage in degrowth, and this is why I'm inside IDN with Juanjo in the practice circle. Because I love, sorry, Juanjo, I love this sentence. The world can change, but it won't change alone. We have to be involved on that. So let's go to the next slide. We go to the global problem because in this conference, we try to explain that the strategy to deploy degrowth has to be locally, but to promote that local strategy, we need to talk globally. So we need that everybody inside the degrowth movement explains the same topics and the same words regarding global problem. And I have just put a few messages on that because I think that it's very important that we are simple but clear and that we face reality and speak with data. First thing that we have to do to everybody is that the global problem is there. CO2 emissions and temperature is rising, growing without stopping. Every year is worse. Every year is worse. And we have here two waves where we can see in live what is happening. If you go to the next slide, Juanjo, we have to say also very clearly that the current proposed solution is not working at all. Green transition cannot happen. You can see here a chart from British Petroleum in 2022. The orange layer at the top is the renewable production. All the rest, all the part is, I would say, dirty energy. And you can see that the renewable energy is not replacing at all the rest because we are growing so fast the consumption of energy that will not happen ever. If you go to the next slide, Juanjo, it's also important that we also speak and explain that the big problem that we have in front of us is the richest people that are gaining more and more. This chart is from International Oxfam in 2023. There are two colors in the bars. The lighter green is the 99% of the population in the world. The 1%, the top richest 1% is the more dark green. And you can see that in the, the colors are the periods and the top 1%, as you can see there, in the green light period, that is 2012 to 21, gained around 50% of the complete benefit created in the world. But in the next period, 2020 and 2021, they earned almost 2/3 of the complete benefit. So they are gaining, and they're gaining more and more and more. This is why we are here, and this is why the problem is not solved, because they want that. They don't want that problem to be solved. If we go to the next page, we can see that they are maintaining us inside a cage. That is what we call the cage of capitalism. And we have to explain this to everybody also. It's very important that we explain that they expect us to consume. For that, we go to work. And when we rest, we see media that provide to us advertisements to consume again, to work again, to see media again. And we are there in a vicious circle. We are trapped there. We are in a cage. If we go to the next slide, that cage, I would say, is like the film Matrix. We have the corporations that are the bad guy of the film Matrix, and they are having us in that cage with two chains. One chain is their work, that they need that we work for them. They need that we work, and for that, they give us money to consume. That is what they want us to do, because like that, we go to work again, we see media, and we consume. And we are trapped because we are seeing a vision that is not real at all, but we are seeing a vision of big cars, big houses, luxury. And while we are looking on that, we are not realizing that the planet is overconsumed to keep the system running. And this is the problem that we have, that while this system is maintained, our planet will be consumed or overconsumed without stopping, because the rich people want to maintain this system. In the next slide, we can see the key point that we have to explain to everybody. We need to break those chains. We are in a trap, we are in a cage, we consume, we work with media because we deliver to them our work and we get their money. We need to break that. We need to not work for them. We need not to accept their money. And once we will do that, we will be in the growth and we will solve our problem. In the next page, we wonder how to do that. First of all, to share everybody the same vision, to see the global problem as we have explained before and to connect globally, but we have to act locally. In the next slide, I want to share with you the same vision, which could be that same vision for everybody to connect. Could be the Tech Trainer vision. Tech Trainer is the growth promoter in Australia. He wrote a book in 2017 called A Simpler Way, where he proposed to go to the growth with such a vision of locally organized citizens in small communities. We have to imagine that at the very end, when the system will be broken and we will live in another way, we will live in small communities, using local resources, working between us and living by us with us, governing in local, because we will be doing our own decisions locally. Communal property will be the norm. We will be managing gardens, farms, factories, all in local, in small villages. Renewable energy will be what we will have for our energy because demand will be reduced a lot, because living like that, we will not need such a big quantity of energy as of today. It is estimated that 2 days of work could be enough to work like that. You have to bear in mind to remember that we said before that the richest people are capturing 63%, 2/3 of all the benefit of the world. This is like saying that from 5 days that we work in a week, from the 5 days, 3 days are for those richest people. Only 2 days are for us in reality. So really working 2 days per week should be enough. And that vision is already existing. It's important to say also that right now we can see that vision in reality. In the Ecovillages organization, I don't know if you know about that, Global Ecovillage Network is existing, it's a big network in the world, and they are proposing, promoting and creating ecovillages that are living like that, like Tech Trainer is proposing. So that is possible, is feasible, and this is where we should go. In the next slide, we have to explain how or why do we focus in implement locally. There is a book written recently here in Spain by those two guys that are ecologists here in Spain, and they explain that we have 3 strategies in front of us to implement the growth. The first strategy is what everybody expects to do, which is through political institutions, by getting access to the government and then doing that from the top. But this is not possible. We have to face reality. Governments are captured right now by the system. They are part of the system. They will not do that ever. Through mass communication campaigns is the second strategy, pursuing the public. This has been the primary strategy of the ecological movement since 50, 60 years ago, and it is not working at all. We have to face also that. So the only real strategy that can work is through local implementation and grassroots practices. We need to foster citizen engagement from the ground up, because all the other strategies is very difficult that they will work. Which is the goal? The goal is to help citizens to understand a vision, to have that vision in front of them, to practice, and while they are practicing that, they will enjoy that, and they will feel that that is aligning with their values. When this sense of purpose emerges and everybody is doing things, practicing, and this is provoking him so good feelings, they will be doing that because they feel that this is a strong desire for transformation. This is what we need to do. We need to get to the people, to our communities, and to get them practicing and then feeling, and then they will like to do that. In the next slide, I concentrate on this message of this conference, because we need to implement locally, but connecting globally. Because we have a problem in front of us. The growth is very difficult to be put in place. It's very difficult to explain, and it's very difficult to get connection to the reality. It's very difficult to do the growth in real life. So we need to do 2 things. The first one is to make it simple. We need to make the principles of the growth actionable at local level for the people to really touch it and feel it. But it's very important to engage them on that, connecting with our global crisis, what we have been explaining at the very beginning. So then, first of all, we need to engage our community to connect with the global problem, the climate energy, the culture of overconsumption that everybody understands as the consumerism, with the structural gap of the trap of the global capitalism. Everybody understands that and believe on that. So with that, we need to convince them to go and to kickstart local implementation. And that we will get it if we propose simple and practical initiatives. The first step on that community creating is not really important. What matters is that we start to do it, we build a community, and then we start getting the community mature. Some good examples of those practices that are simple, we can find it in the Transition Network, international movement that started around 15 years ago, that we can find on the internet, and that there are several groups in the world, many of them, and that they are doing things, simple things that can be good examples of what we can do. In the next slide, I made a kind of summary, because what González, Reyes, and Almazán proposes that we deploy degrowth by practice, because they explain that practice triggers that changes in values and connect with the emotions. Like that, citizens will like to live like that, they will share a vision, and they will aspire to disconnect from the current system, and they will aspire to break the chains of the capitalism trap. Here we can see in a kind of image that we have to go from the trap of consume works in media to the new vision of eco-village, going through transition network with IDN to global eco-village network. And here you can see some first steps that we can imagine to propose. They are not complex. Community garden, consumer group, Repair Cafe, time bank. Doing that, we can start to create a community. We can start putting that community mature enough to go to the next level. That will be creating new communalities that make that community get out from the system, breaking the chains of the work and the money, and living between them with a cooperative supermarket, with energy community, with an alternative currency, and with the final end that could be a work cooperative. In the next slide, we go more on details on these ideas. Yes, and I want to insist that the road from our current lifestyle to that degrowth vision will be built by a lot of little steps. We need to target building a community of practice. This is our target. This is our objective, to create community and to make that community living the growth. The most important point here is that that community of practice needs move. So we need to identify very soon something to be done. That is not important what is done, but we need something being inside the growth. So that activities should be proposed by their own community. And what is very, very important is that that community is taking care and nurturing themselves, because we need to build strong relationships that will get that community mature for the long term. By fostering movement and care, that community will get maturity and will spread this degrowth movement from local to global. Here, we can go more on the details of those first steps. In my life, in my town, in Albacete, I am doing that with a community. We are doing a Repair Cafe. This picture is from Albacete. Here, I am there in that table with many people that have been connected to my community. And a Repair Cafe is a repair space where you propose to the citizens to take some broke things that they have at their houses, and you help them to fix it. Community gardens is quite clear to understand that is in community to have a garden and to produce food. And you can go even further, and you even can go buy or have somebody doing that production, and then you are paying and managing that food production project. Consumer group is the most common way to take control of the consumption in a communal way. You organize a group of people, you organize joint purchases of organic and local products. It's something also easy to explain. Time bank is, I would say, making favors one to the other. I would say that I may go to your house and help with your garden. You can provide maybe English lessons to my kids, and doing like that, we are starting to collaborate and to do things between us without the system, out of the system, out of the money. Those, I would say, are first step that we can imagine to propose to our community to start. Having said that, we can go to the advanced level, I would say. This is really to imagine that we are living out of the system. That is what we target to do with that community, to break our chains of money and work. Energy community is that a community decides to benefit from the use of renewable energy. So all of them pay for production of renewable energy. Cooperative housing is a group of people that buy homes, buy buildings, buy properties, and they live there in cooperation. And a cooperative supermarket is a grocery store that is owned by the cooperative, and they are deciding which are the providers of the supermarket, and they go there to buy. So they are deciding what they buy and what decided the suppliers of that supermarket. The last two more important steps could be to have an alternative currency. That is the natural evolution of a time bank. In a time bank, you can only exchange time. But if you have an alternative currency that you can use to pay between you, you can exchange products. That currency is not difficult to be created. There are currently internet proposals to do that easily in community, and you can start using that with your phones, for example. And the last step would be work cooperative. That is to create a cooperative in which everybody is working, and inside that cooperative, you work for everybody inside the cooperative. And inside the cooperative, you don't need to pay money to whoever other multinational company or to get money for that. Okay, so this could be the final of these would say steps for advance. And now I want to tell you how I am doing that in Albacete, in Spain, in my town. I started with a conference on the growth almost 2 years ago, in October 2023. I gave a conference in my village of the growth of climate crisis, and I proposed to the people there to organize a transition group in Albacete. We made it. We have right now a web that is what you can see in the screen, albacetentransition.org. And during meetings between ourselves, we decided that the activity that we want to do is a Reaper Cafe. We learned from another Spanish town that were doing that, how to do it. And from March 2024, we are doing that. And I can tell you that it's very interesting, very fun to be there with a group of people and fixing the normal, the standard things that are broken around us, like a microwave, like a toaster, broad toaster, whatever. And we are maintaining that activity every month. And this is what is, I would say, maintaining the group alive, because we have an activity, and because of that, we are maintaining us as a community. I would say that this is our main activity as of today. This is our core. But we have also another activity that we have launched, that we have worked there. We have organized a market at zero price. We organized that in our town, in Albacete. We proposed to Albacete citizens to make donations of clothing and small items for free, of course. They did that. And once that we collected that, we proposed, we organized a market, and we put all those belongings for anybody that could go to the room, and anything could take that for free. And it worked very well, and it was like a message of how many things do we have in our houses because of the overconsumption. Consumer group, we have a WhatsApp group right now in which everybody can offer products, and whenever one member wants to organize a collective purchasing, if there is interest from the rest of the members, he or she organizes that purchasing, and he or she distributes it to the involved members. This is also quite easy to be organized in our town of Albacete. And we are right now also organizing a conference to animate to go to Linux, that is an operative system alternative to Microsoft, because maybe you know that Microsoft will be stopping the support to Windows 10 in October, and maybe there will be many people that will have to buy a laptop or another PC, and we want to avoid that. And doing like that, we will try to avoid that overconsumption and helping the people to maintain their current computers. This is some examples of common activities that we are right now doing in Albacete. And regarding organization, we have a web, that is what you can see there. And we also, in which we explain our vision, our mission, our activities. This is, I would say, how we sell what we do to the rest, and people know what we're doing because of that. And we organize ourselves in a WhatsApp community with several groups, and we have monthly online meetings. Right now, we are around 50 members in the community, although the active members are only around 20, not more. And okay, until here is my presentation. I hope you have enjoyed. I let Daniel to introduce and to explain his part.
Move to Colombia now.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Jose. Very interesting all what you said. And yeah, well, so my idea is to talk to you a little bit about how is this experience of understanding and talking about degrowth, or maybe like terms that may be like similar to degrowth, but not necessarily that word in Colombia, in Bogota, because like we always hear that when we read about the degrowth literature, we see like, okay, degrowth should start in the global north countries. We have this in mind, right? But like at the same time, when you see the principles of degrowth, we are basically trying to make a system which is based on welfare of planet and people. So like, why shouldn't we want that also in Latin America, for example? So this exercise that we've been doing for a couple of years with this NGO called Shambhala is a little bit how we are trying to make this happen, or at least start the conversation. Because actually, and you can go to the next slide, Juan, please. This conversation about how we can shift from a economic, productive, cultural system based on consumerism, hierarchy, addiction to growth, to something else, is, I have seen, for example, in Europe, that a lot of people tend to think that we here in Latin America have more possibilities of having access to those kind of mindsets, because we have like a more deeply rooted connection with indigenous communities, with and a lot of different worldviews that are not particularly Western. But actually, it's not at all that the case. Like the regular people in cities like the one that I live in, the one that I was born at Bogota, we are completely entangled in this very system that Jose explained very well. So a couple of years ago, I'm Daniel Gutierrez, I founded this NGO called Shambhala. And basically the idea is to help different sectors of society imagine new realities in which we shift paradigms from consumerism, hierarchy, addiction to growth, to all of these more regenerative mindsets. So what I'm gonna do right now is explain you a little bit of what I've done, and then give a little bit of a conclusion and some reflections about how do we understand degrowth, at least in Bogota. So next slide, please, and then next slide. What have we done? So we also, as Jose also has in Spain, we have a WhatsApp community. This has been going for like around 18 months. And we make sure that this WhatsApp community has like a lot of activities all the time to keep them engaged, in which we, of course, we have like this current, at least once a day, message in which we give them some knowledge about something that is happening in Colombia or in the world, related to how this old paradigm about extraction is not working out properly for us, especially for us in the global majority, right? So it's also like about this climate justice kind of conversations that I'm very sure you guys are very aware of. But we also try to give other kind of activities that is not just knowledge, but places for us to interact, places for us to be able to engage with other people around Colombia virtually, around this stuff that we are very much aware of about how the old world is changing and we need to build something new. So next slide, please. We do this meditation session, something that actually the name Shambhala comes from the Buddhist tradition, the Tibetan Buddhist tradition, in which we speak about an imaginary enlightened town. So this is also something that we try to work with a lot, which is not just talking about the crisis, but how when we attempt to imagine a different world, it would be so helpful for us also in our own personal and we could say even spiritual well-being without it being related to any kind of religion. So what do? We do weekly environmental debates, and this is something awesome. If anybody here speaks Spanish, I very much invite them to enter. If you don't, then don't, because everything is in Spanish. But we basically, yeah, for example, this week we did a debate about all what's happening around the wars around the Middle East and how this may be related to the environment and to the climate crisis. So this we just give this opportunity for people to engage and to tell how they feel about these very complex issues. We also do a weekly meditation, a virtual meditation. You can see it right there. So we invite different kinds of people who are engaged in different spiritual communities to teach us about this stuff. We do 2 virtual classes a month and at least one in-person event. We do this one in Bogota or nearby to Bogota because that's where most of our people are. And I mean, I don't have the time to explain this further, but we have this methodology in which we have like a spiral in which apart from all these activities that are like aimed for every single person, within this spiral, people can start to engage every time more with the community so that they can become leaders in the community and then present their own projects, which could be very much local based, but also like other kinds of projects and more like national based. So please, next slide. So these other kind of activities that we do that I was telling you and that actually have been leaded not just by like the people who work in the Shambhala organization, working like full-time in the Shambhala organization, we're 5 people, but like with our community of, let's say, volunteers, which are like working out this spiral. We have like at least 150 people that we have identified, which who are like very much engaged and wanting to do stuff. So we do our artistic activities. We have like this book to identify which are these eco entrepreneurs that are part of the community, so that we can start buying more like their stuff. And actually, we are already having conversations, which I mean, this is very difficult to implement, but to have like even our own currency so that we can start buying ourselves our own stuff within the community that is working out with Shambhala. And next slide, please. So now, next slide is just like about some pictures. So for example, this picture that you can see in the center, it's like a public football field. In cement football field. We have a lot of those here in Colombia. And we got some budget throughout like our community to paint it. And actually what it says, it's like no luchamos por la naturaleza, somos la naturaleza que lucha, which in English means like we don't fight for nature, we're nature fighting for itself. It's a very famous phrase, pretty sure that you have heard it. So we also work out with schools. That's actually our main method of having some income so that we can then pay for salaries and etc., which is always so hard when you're like trying to go against the current. So we work a lot with schools, doing conferences in which we invite multiple schools to come to learn about these kind of concepts. So we do speak about specifically about degrowth, about ecological thinking like donut economics, like welfare, bienestar, well-being economies, and all these kind of concepts that make part of all of these post-growth narratives. So we try to explain that to the youngsters. Actually, we have even done some networking events in which we invite the corporate sector into to be introduced to these kind of new narratives. It's very difficult. Normally, the corporates are not very much interested in these kind of narratives. In that sense, I agree with what Jose just said. But yeah, we've been working out this for like already a couple of years. So next slide, please. And well, yeah, no, this I already said, but these are other kind of projects that we're working out right now, which we're not only actually we're not only working in the, let's say, a degrowth space. We also like in general within environmentalism, we try to get involved as much as possible in helping out local communities when they are like being exploited in any kind of way, but by other like extractive organizations. So we kind of organize quickly when there's something happening in Colombia, and we send legal petitions to these extractive companies to ask them what's going on, and we try to speak about it in social media. So we, with our community and the volunteers, we're also working out these kind of activities. And yeah, so next slide, please. So something that I think is very maybe interesting for you guys, very probably the ones hearing me are mostly people who have been raised in the global north. So what conclusions have I made by working out this already for a couple of years in Colombia? Which is like, firstly, like, I know that this is also like a very big debate around Europe, but like in Colombia, for sure, like talking about the word degrowth seems completely counterintuitive, and there's like a very, 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 very strong resistance even to that word, because I mean, for what it implies in a country in which most people think that we're still poor, right? So with the with the growth imperative mindset is very much fixed on us. So maybe it's easier to get uh, unattached from that mindset when you're in Europe, in a place where people kind of think that their basic needs have already been worked out, right? So this is something that and actually there's even examples of this happening in the government. I mean, the actually Colombian president Gustavo Petro, which was keynote speaker in the degrowth in this conference, he, I think, is very much a pro degrowth kind of guy, but he would never say that in public speech, because like everybody would roast him. So yeah, so this is something important. I mean, to know what we're talking about, but actually, indigenous communities, for example, in Colombia and all over Latin America, they already have a mindset and a way of functioning socially and productively, which is very much aimed at of what degrowth wants to talk about. And maybe this kind of discourses are very, very much better received in places like Latin America. Also, I think something which is very important, which is like people in general understand that limitless growth in a finite planet, it's impossible, and that consumerism is something that at the end of the day is just not viable for a long-term humanity. So that's something that people actually do understand. uh, Especially in Colombia, now that we have for the first time in all of our history a left-wing president. A lot, I mean, environmentalism is seen as a lefty political issue. That is something that is happening very much here in Colombia, and that there's like a very strong polarization. And actually, this very strong polarization is at the moment very much more gaining spot in the political spectrum, the right-wing movements, and as I know, is happening in Europe. So next slide, please. Which are like main bottlenecks that I here trying to apply degrowth in practice as what this presentation's name is. So it's like there's very limited finance options for degrowth aligned projects. Also that there's this understanding of when you're working in environmental stuff, then you're planting trees, right? So like this is something that is very much fixed in the mindset of people here in Colombia, which is not like, okay, trying to work out like consumerism and like, I don't know, plastics and this kind of stuff. It's not very much in the mind of people. So the solutions that normally are financed are not actually those. And yeah, of course, also this very, very enormous challenge in which like general population is very much unaware about this environmental risk and about the scientific knowledge. For example, like 2 months ago, I started doing like TikTok videos about this stuff, and like you can't imagine the amount of climate denial that there is starting to grow here in Colombia, when we actually thought that was more like a United States, maybe UK kind of thing, but it's actually also growing here in Colombia. Next slide, please. Just to finish, what does degrowth mean for Latin America? It doesn't mean necessarily reduction of GDP, just trying to structure the productive, cultural, economic system towards sufficiency and well-being. It means necessarily reducing inequality, and of course, it also needs this necessary like climate justice conversation in which we have been more like in the global productive system being the ones who provide the necessary means for the global north to consume. So this also is something that we very much need to be speaking about also here in Colombia, in Latin America. And this part of the conversation, I think, in the environmental space is very clear. So yeah, that's my part. Thank you very much. Hope it was interesting.
You have here some of the contacts of Daniel and the website if you want to visit it. Okay, so we have arrived to the last part of the presentations. So we got two new more. You can see well, you don't see, but we have 3 people on the screen. Did you stop the recording, Daniel, or we continue, as you prefer? We can stop here and then we can have the open discussion without recording.
Yeah, I mean, would you prefer if I stop recording?
Yeah, potentially we can stop.
Okay, so give me 1 second. Okay,